Bowl of Cherries by Millard Kaufman. Millard Kaufman is an interesting fellow. He had an interesting life. He was a Marine in World War II, served on Guadalcanal and Guam. He had 2 Academy Award nominations for screenplay, including Bad Day at Black Rock, a very famous movie. He was a co-creator of Mr. Magoo, which is very cool. And when he was in his 80s, he couldn't get hired to write screenplays anymore. But he wasn't done. And so he wrote his first novel. And McSweeney's loved it and published it. And that is Bowl of Cherries, published when he was 90 years old. So a really interesting guy. McSweeney's also published his second book, Misadventure. Well, not his second book, but his second novel. Published his second novel, Misadventure, posthumously. He died at 92. So in this video, I want to go over the points of issue for the 3 hardcover printings. When you see these, they're all first printings or first edition with a very strong implication that it's first printing or not stated. But for the most part, when you see a hardcover Bowl of Cherries, it's either stated directly or indirectly that it's a first printing. Very few people know that there are 3 hardcover printings. The copyright page never changed, which is a very McSweeney's thing to do. But they did put in points of issue, which is also a very McSweeney's thing to do. They made a horrendous mess for people with Dave Eggers' What is the What? Which, to my knowledge, I'm the only person that can tell you which printing is which for the 6 printings. That's an interesting story by itself. The 3 printings of issue 13 of the Quarterly Concern, the jackets have points of issue. I have yet to find out what the point of issue is between a first printing and a third printing jacket is on issue 13. There are points of issue on the second printing jacket, and I'm sure there are on the third, but I have yet to distinguish a first and third jacket for issue 13. Anyway, back to Bowl of Cherries. They use the same paper, the same case wrap on all 3 printings, but they changed the texture of the paper on all 3 printings. You can have all 3 printings, and if you're not paying pretty close attention, you have no idea you've got all 3. The differences are very clear. When you see them, they don't look anything alike. But if you're not really looking, it's not something you would be likely to notice. So this paper on the first printing got a strong texture to it. They all have a strong texture to it. The jacket is a cut jacket. It's a very McSweeney's thing to do. A lot of their books, they don't want to use jackets. So they use cut jackets, half jackets, belly bands, back cover stickers, back cover sleeves. They've done all kinds of things to not use a jacket, which I think is cool. I'm not a fan of jackets myself, by and large. And I like that they've tried different things in lieu of a jacket. This is a signed copy, inscribed and signed. I have a couple of association copies that he has signed just Millard, and I have a more generic inscription that he signed, Millard Kaufman. This one is signed October 27th of 2007 for Connie with all kinds of love, Millard. For Connie with all kinds of love. Now, it's on the webcam, I can't really show or describe the difference in texture in a way that people are going to understand. I have pictures, and in the pictures it's very clear in the pictures, but on the webcam I really can't show or describe the differences in texture. But a first printing volume will have black end papers, nicely textured. Nice texture to the end papers. Texture kind of matches the texture that they've used on the case wrap. The second and third printings also have black end papers, but they are not textured. So the easiest way to identify the volume on a first printing is the end papers. Textured, first printing; not textured, second or third printing. The jacket, on a second, there's a very slight difference between a first printing and second printing jacket. The registry, the vertical registry of the jacket is a tiny bit different on the second printing, like 3/8 of an inch. They've shifted the art just like 3/8 of an inch, hardly at all. But I have a second printing here. I have a number of images of second printings in my image library, and all the second printings have this slightly different registry of the art. So really, this is one of those books where you have to have all three printings in hand to really be sure you've got the right volume and the right jacket. It's not quite that bad, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. So this is a first printing association copy. Not an important association copy, I don't think, but clearly he knows the person. I have a second printing here, also inscribed and signed. Same case wrap, but the texture is clearly different. And again, this is not going to show up on the webcam, and I can't really describe it adequately, but in pictures it's very clear, the differences. So I got another first printing here, signed and inscribed. This one is December 14th, 2007, for Stephanie and Karen. Regards, Millard Kaufman. So this is, of my 3 signed copies, this is the most generic. All of my signed copies are inscribed. I much prefer inscribed copies. Even if it's just to Joe, I'd rather have that over flat sign. The more that's written, the more I like it. You know, this one is dated, it's inscribed, it's signed. But this one is signed with his full name, Millard Kaufman. My other 2 copies are strictly signed Millard. Feel pretty strongly he knew the people based on the inscriptions and based on what I've seen in what I have in my image library of other signed copies. He signed all of his books above the title, on the title page. Now he may have signed just his name. He may have just flat signed copies. All the copies I've seen have been signed above the title on the title page. And there aren't a lot of signed copies around. And I'm more interested in the inscribed copies. I might have a couple of flat signed copies in my image library, but there just aren't that many around. Now here is a second printing. Same paper, but the texture is completely different when you've got it right close in your hands. Now you can have all three books in front of you, and if you're not looking for it, not see it. But if you're looking, it's very different. The registry of the art, the vertical registry where it's been printed or cut, is definitely different on the second printing. This one is inscribed and signed. I believe this is an association copy also. December 2nd, 2007, for Cop. I'm mad about your daughter. Best regards, Millard. I'm mad about your daughter. I love this one. This is my favorite of the three. So that is a second printing. The second printing volume, if you don't know the texture of the paper, which is the best way, but for video purposes, it's a little tougher. The second printing volume has smooth end papers. The third printing volume, with the third texture of case wrap, also has smooth black end papers, but on the third printing volume, they made the imprint, McSweeney's rectangulars, smaller than on the first and second printings. McSweeney's rectangulars is a McSweeney's imprint, and it is smaller than on the second printing. So first printing volume, if you don't know the case wrap, first printing is textured end papers. Second printing is smooth end papers with large name of the imprint. And the third printing is smooth end papers with the small name of the imprint. Now, McSweeney's puts on this show about tripping up everybody on their printings, but they always put points of issue on these things. It's hidden in there somewhere. And while I'm looking for these things, I check every little thing I can. You know, this bowl of cherries has yellow bands. The headband and tailband are yellow. So, of course, I'm checking out all the headbands. Are they yellow on all of them, or have they gone with like red, white, and blue for the three printings? I've never seen them change the headbands to distinguish a printing, but it would be a McSweeney's thing to do. That's the kind of thing they did. So the jacket on the third printing goes back to the same registry as the first printing, but it's easy to tell because they've laid in blurbs on the front cover. Got the same art, but they've taken out little pieces of the art and they've laid in a number of blurbs about how great the book is. This is a third printing jacket. For a long time, I thought it was a second state first printing, and nobody ever questioned me about it because nobody had even heard of that. When I was looking for these and I was asking what state of first printing they had, nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. And now when I'm making inquiries, I'm like, is it a first, second, or third printing? They really have no idea what I'm talking about. So, bowl of cherries, 3 hardcover printings, copyright never changed, but there are points of issues for all the volumes and all the jackets. He's 90 years old when this was published, but he did sign a number of copies. He did some sweet inscriptions for people he knew, and I'm lucky that I've got a couple of association copies. In another video, I have some ephemera for Bowl of Cherries, and I'll put that in another video so this one doesn't run way long. I have an uncorrected proof for this book. The proof for Bowl of Cherries is in white wraps, and I also have a printer's proof for the cover, which is a really interesting piece. It's interesting to have just as a stage of production, and to go with this book, which I'm a fan of. It's nice to have it for this book. The printer's proof has one of the textured papers. Does not have any end papers in it. The cover is just the cover. It's got the case wrap on it. On the inside, the boards are bare, and there's a sticker from the printer with some notes about this particular sample of cover. It's a cover sample. But it also had, I believe it had, the jacket. The jacket is not present now, but I believe there's a slight fading in the cover. I believe it may have had a jacket originally. I'm not 100% on that, but I think it might have had a jacket. It also had the entire text in loose signatures. Has all the signatures to the volume, but the signatures hadn't been bound. There's like 16, 18, 20 signatures, whatever it is. It's a big old stack of signatures. The whole book is there, but they're all loose. So it's a really interesting piece. Even if it had the jacket and the jacket is missing, it's still kind of a cool piece of ephemera of the process of deciding what cover, what case wrap they were going to use. So I'll put those pieces in another video here before too long. But Bowl of Cherries, when you buy this, ask about the first, second, or third printing. Nobody will know what you're talking about, but you do, because I finally got it mostly sorted out, I think, until somebody corrects me or gives me more information, which I'm always happy to be wrong. Being wrong and being told I'm wrong means people are giving me new information, and I'm happy to be wrong if I get new information. So don't be shy. I've got an email in the description here. If you know more about this book than I do, fill me in as much detail as you've got. There you go.